What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Rudis Wrestling Podcast, episode number 8. Matt, we are now really second week into wrestling season. There wasn't anything huge that happened this weekend. Did you catch anything? What results did you like? What was your favorite thing of the weekend?
Yeah, I just kept track of all the events that were going on up at Journeyman, and I know the Binghamton Open was going on, the Ohio Open, whatever they were calling
Ohio
it.
Collegiate. Was that a thing? Like, has that happened before? The Ohio Collegiate Open? I'd never heard of that one.
No, that was the first time they had put on this event, and
Okay.
I forget what Open tournament they decided not to do the Open tournament, but I think Case Western and Danny Song picked up the event from
Okay.
another tournament that wasn't being run. So, which essentially turned into the Ohio State Open, right?
Yeah, well, I was gonna jokingly say if we had if this had been my old podcast, the Hero and Funky show, we probably would have spent the whole damn podcast on with Ohio Collegiate Open because it's pretty much when you look through the results, it's just like Ohio State after Ohio State after Ohio State. And honestly, if you love Ohio State, you could probably talk about Ohio State at this tournament almost the whole time.
Yeah, you really could.
No, I want to see some of the matches. I haven't bought the $17 track subscription, so I'm hoping to get a link to that later today. I think the $17 for the Ohio Collegiate Open might be a little bit high priced. What I really would like to see. I want to see the Micah Jordan versus Sammy Sasso. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I saw the outcome. I saw the box score on it, but I haven't been able to watch the actual match. So there, obviously, just by the score itself, 9-7 seemed fairly competitive. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how the match went. There's, I'm sure, a high level of familiarity there because they're in the room together every single day.
But yeah, you know what I like to see though? I like, Micah Jordan doesn't score a huge amount of points. He's not a big point scoring guy usually. More of a control guy. So I like, and I would think Ohio State would like this, that he's actually going after Micah Jordan. Sometimes you don't like it when the freshmen are scared of the upperclassmen and they kind of bow down to him a little bit. And obviously, like I said, we didn't see the match, so we can't say this is exactly what happened, but definitely would be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that's the future for Ohio State at 149, you would assume, with Sasso. So from an evaluation standpoint.
Well, what about Keyshawn, though? Keyshawn might try to come back down.
This is true.
I don't know what the status is there with Keyshawn because obviously he wrestled off for that spot this year. And, Keyshawn he wrestled off for 141 2 years ago against McKenna. And so
yes.
He's actually lost the wrestle off 2 years in a row and been forced to bump up. So, for him, he's like, next year, I'm going to win a wrestle off.
And so I know we've talked about this previously, but those are good problems to have when you have depth, high level depth in weight classes. So,
yeah, well, then the other thing you look at, obviously they have McKenna at 41, but then they got Quinn Kinner, who's a red shirt. He won that weight class. And then, at 157, they have Elijah Clear, I don't. You can maybe fill me on him. I don't know who he is, but he beat Will Lewan in the semis and then loses to Keyshawn in the finals, 6-5, a very competitive match. And then wait, let me make one more point, and then you guys tell me who Elijah Clear is because I have no damn idea. And then the other one, they have Jaden Maddox in that bracket, who he took 5th place, but it was one of those brackets where if you lose, the highest you can take is 5th if you lose before the semis.
Yeah, and what happens there is since there's a match limit, about the number of matches you can actually compete in one day. A lot of the open tournaments, when you have these huge brackets, instead you can't really wrestle a true wrestleback because a lot of these times in a lot of these open tournaments, when you get to the Conci quarters or Conci semis, you've reached your match limit for the day. And so you wouldn't even actually be able to have a 3rd place match. So a lot of these open tournaments, if you lose before the semifinals, the best you can do is come back for 5th. So in the case of at 157, they just wrestled for fifth place, so he didn't have the opportunity to fully wrestle back. Yeah,
got it. Who's Elijah Cleary? I don't know this guy.
I am not real familiar with him myself.
Well, now I got to Google him because I'm curious.
Now we got to look him up, right?
Okay, and then Jaden Maddox takes fifth in that bracket, and he kind of, I looked in, he had a bunch of pins and tech falls on the backside, and then you go all the way up to 74, and Ethan Smith beat Tashawn Campbell, who he lost to. He lost both matches to in the wrestle off. So man,
those were pretty competitive wrestle off matches. I was over there and I got to watch them, and so even in the wrestle off, you could tell like Ethan Smith, he's got some skills, he's got some tools, and so again, early on, I'm sure they're feeling pretty strong. Like I know one of the big concerns, especially when you head into the Big Ten season, is the likelihood of you having all 10 of your starters healthy and ready to go week in and week out. It's hard to keep these guys healthy. So to know that you have good quality backup, that if somebody goes down, a guy can step in and perform at a high level and you can actually count on him for a win. I know Ohio State's got to be excited about that. And looking at heavyweight, Chase Singletary had a good win over Mason Paris.
Yeah, and I would like to see that match also. So at some point we'll watch these ones. And I thought it was notable that and obviously you lose one, the wrestlebacks, but I still think it's notable that Gary Traub. Oh, and this bracket is not that. So he lost twice. Gary Traub, who lost to Chase, or who beat Chase Singletary, loses twice and takes fifth place. So we always talk about that as people at the high school level, they think wrestle-offs are the only thing that matter. And at a college level, that's just not the case, right? If you can beat someone in wrestle-off 100 times in a row, but if you don't perform as well in them in tournaments, you're just not going to be the starter.
Right. So I'm sure that's what Ohio State's trying to figure out. And, I know there was probably some concern after wrestle-offs that they kind of had Singletary slotted in as the guy, and he ended up losing wrestle-offs, but then turns around, wins an open tournament, beats a highly touted guy in Mason Paris. So, yeah, that's what you want to see. It's not what you do to get to wear the singlet. It's what you do once you have the singlet on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of depth in so I looked up Elijah Cleary. Not much college performances. He's had 2 years there, redshirt and redshirt freshman year. Not much going on there. Couple-time high school state champion from Florida, Lake Highland Prep, and that's all I got about him. So I didn't know him. Obviously beats Lilloan, close match with Keyshawn, a really tough kid. So they're deep at 157. And then the other thing, obviously, that I was going to mention there is that we will be talking about recruiting later, and man, their recruiting class this year is ridiculously good. I mean, they have three, and this is crazy. They have 3 of the top 5 overall recruits. And 2 of those, I'm sorry, only one. Carson Karchlaw kind of fits in those weight classes somewhere. I thought they were getting Connor Brady, but Connor Brady probably saw how deep they were and said, peace, I'm out, and went somewhere else. But Karchlaw,
Tech, right?
Yeah, Karchlaw fits what, 65, 74, somewhere right in those weight classes.
Yeah, I think he's probably maxed out at 74, just with his stature and his frame. He's probably, I would say 65 transitioning into 74, but that's probably his top end.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of depth at Ohio State. I know we'll talk about the recruiting class later. So wait, how was that? How big was that pin party at Penn State? I know you love Penn State. You're not going to show your bias on this podcast, but you spent a decent amount of time there. What do you think?
Yeah, thank goodness that they didn't throw out Gavin Teasdale yet at 125, or they could have gone 10 for 10.
Yeah,
falls, right?
Yeah, I mean,
well, they had one tech, right?
No, I want to say 2 techs. Well, let's see.
Okay.
No, it was 53. So you're right, because they won 9 matches. Wasn't it 53-3? So they must have had 8 pins and 1 tech.
Yep.
Man,
tech at heavyweight.
Carver Hawkeye used to be such a scary place to wrestle. It's got to be Rec Hall now because listen, if you go in there, Penn State, like they're not just coming to beat you; they're coming to have a freaking bloodbath. Like they're going to try to beat you as bad as they can beat you every single match. Right? Do you agree with that? It's kind of intimidating.
Yeah, I don't think they went out. It's like, hey guys, first match of the season in Rec Hall. Let's just get some match time in here. They're like, hey, smell the blood in the water, get in, get on the mat, get off as quickly as you can. And yeah.
So
I know it's early in the season, but that was pretty impressive. Pretty impressive way to open the season, especially they had, some young guys come out. I know at 133, Roman Bravo Young looked
awesome.
He looked the part already, didn't he?
Already. I mean, and this is a guy, Tim Rooney, and someone was saying, oh, he's got weight cutting issues, or a few people were trying to, I don't want to say make excuses, but kind of explain away. I mean, this is a guy, Tim Rooney, that went 8-7 with Austin DeSanto 2 nights before that, or 2 nights before that, and DeSanto had to work really, really hard to win that match, and Bravo Young just blows him out in every sense of the word, in every position, and ends up sticking him.
Yeah, I mean, it was utter domination in every skill set, in every position. I mean, Rooney didn't have an answer. He came out on Friday, 2 straight takedowns against DeSanto. Gave DeSanto his,
tough match, really tough match.
And, I know that DeSanto's got a lot of run on a lot of platforms.
Okay, listen, I get that. And listen, I banned people from saying DeSanto in my practice room. I said they have to do 100 push-ups. Well, the gimmick on the Flow's Instagram, right, Matt? Do you follow that?
Yeah.
No matter what people would say DeSanto to whatever.
Yeah.
And so they tried doing it in my practice room. I said, no, we're not going to play these games. Anyone said DeSanto got 100 push-ups, and then it got to be if anyone said anything that implied DeSanto, like they kept saying cartwheel Kimura. so then I said anything if there's anything that even implies DeSanto, 100 push-ups. So he got like, to your point, he got a lot of play, but listen, he was round of 12 as a freshman. He beat Steven Michich, who was a very high All-American. I mean, he had some really, really good wins last year. And so for Roman Bravo Young, a guy that we had never really seen in too many high-level folk style matches. He's from Arizona. They don't travel much. We'd obviously seen him compete in freestyle and Greco, but you and I both know freestyle and Greco could be worlds apart from folk style for certain people, and
especially on the collegiate level.
Yeah, right? Man. Yes, 100%. I mean, you remember that one guy who came to my head when I said that? Do you remember that one guy, Ali Nasser?
Yes.
He was from California, and he beat some. I mean, I want to say maybe beat Coleman Scott. I could be off on that, but he beat a few really, really, really high level people in freestyle, and then in folk style, he was just never that good. It's different. So for Penn State, and obviously Cale has a plan. He knows what he's doing. But damn, Roman Bravo Young impressed me. I mean, I thought I knew he was gonna be good, but I was not expecting that. I don't know that anyone was expecting that.
No, not at all. And some of the other, not that they're question marks because they're proven guys, but they've, at 97, they flip-flop guys. Rashid goes down to 84, Nickel goes up to 97.
Well, and so obviously, so we should mention in there that oh my gosh, I'm blank. Kyle Cannell. Well, he did wrestle 1 match out of the 3 matches on Friday night. Obviously, it looks like had a pretty serious injury. Gritted out the match, didn't wrestle in the 2 following that, and then didn't wrestle on Sunday. So, we were all looking forward to the Cannell versus Nickel match, which is right now 1 versus 2. And we didn't get it at all. So, I think that was kind of disappointing, but obviously with the injury, listen, Bo Nickel's tough enough. Bo Nickel with the injury, you might as well not bother.
No, especially it's the second week of November. What's the point? I mean, as a fan of wrestling, everybody's salivating. Everybody wants to see number 1 versus number 2, but in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? Obviously, on Friday night, I don't know what the issue is.
Yeah, I don't know why he was trying to wrestle when he was that. Why was he trying to? I mean, his shoulder was all taped up and there was a brace. I don't really know why he was even trying to wrestle, to tell you the truth.
No, I probably wouldn't even have put him out there on Friday night.
I mean, what was the point?
Yeah,
that was weird.
Yeah, the outcome of the match was already determined.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he got hurt in that match. He came to the match with his shoulder all taped up and whatnot. I mean, I think it's like, man, I struggle with that. I didn't know why he was out there, and so and if anything, if you're gonna save him for anything early in the season, throw him out there against Bo Nickel. But why would you wrestle him in that one match where he's very clearly very injured?
No, for sure. And my philosophy always was, if you have time to get something right, get your athlete right, get them healthy so they can perform at the end of the year. I mean, November is not that important. You clearly have enough time on the clock, enough time in the year to get healthy. Why not just let them get healthy? And maybe it was one of those game time decisions or whatever they do with the NFL players. They thought he could go.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, I think you're close enough to be back. Let's put you out there. Clearly, obviously, after the match, they're like, yeah, that's probably not the best thing. Let's pull you for the rest of the weekend, which is probably the smartest thing to do.
Yep, absolutely. So the other, I guess you'd say, big result, we got our first look at the Hawkeyes. So that duel, for those of you guys who weren't paying attention, the frenzy at the Fieldhouse, I liked how they named it. Wisconsin and Iowa both wrestled Kent State and Bakersfield. So each wrestled 2 matches. Bakersfield and Kent State also wrestled each other. So they each got 3 matches. So we got our first look at Iowa. And so you and I had already mentioned the DeSanto Rooney match was very good. And the other one that, Iowa couldn't have possibly liked the result of is Russell Rolfing from Cal State Bakersfield, who, he's a guy who's tough. He's been kind of in and out of the rankings, but he gets the big win over Patrick Lugo, who was starting out ranked number 6. And I know a lot of people have high expectations. So I guess, man, if you're Iowa, you can't be feeling great about that result.
No, but again, I mean, it's early. I mean, Lugo's been off the map for a year. He wrestled in open competition.
Well, he beat what's his name? Who did he beat last year? It was at U23s or the Open or someone really good. Anyway,
no, he had a really good result, but I know stylistically there's guys that can give Lugo fits, and I think Cal State's kid is one of the guys that kind of gives Lugo historically, from a stylistically and a matchup standpoint, kind of gives Lugo some fits. So
because Lugo is, he's a fairly limited. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to stereotype what an Iowa wrestler is,
well, but he's not an Iowa wrestler. He's a transfer, right? He's from Florida. Went to Edinboro. But I would have said this when he was at Edinboro. So no, I pick on Iowa enough, so you can't add. You can't say I'm picking on them when I'm not actually picking on them. Like, I'm sure I'll pick on them plenty this season, but
no,
you can't put that one on me.
No. I'm not trying to play that off and dish you off.
You're trying to put,
and I'm not trying to throw you out and hang you in the wind. But no, Lugo's body type and his skill set is somewhat limited. So what he does very well. But if you push him outside of his comfort zone, he tends to struggle. So we'll see how he continues to develop. The other thing I wanted to talk about, speaking of Kent State, 3 Big Ten opponents in their first weekend. They had Iowa, Wisconsin, and Penn State. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
You know what? I didn't even think about it till you said that. But not only 3 Big Ten opponents, but really 3 really good Big Ten opponents, right? Because you have Penn State, what's number 1, Iowa number 2, and then Wisconsin, I believe, is somewhere down around 20. So definitely not starting them off with a cupcake schedule by any sense of the imagination. I would have to look at the rest of their schedule and see where they go from here. I would, just from a scheduling standpoint, what do you think of the choice to open up with 3 Big Ten opponents, in your first weekend or second weekend of the year? I mean, I think when you're trying to schedule, obviously
Coach Andrasey has been at it for a long time. He's got a lot of experience. He's seen the ins and outs of everything. And I'm sure when you're planning and executing your competition schedule, I think when you make that choice to open up with 3 Big Ten teams in the second weekend of the year, you probably feel that you've got a pretty resilient team, because you can't lie to yourself. You most likely know, hey, for sure against Penn State and Iowa, we're going to get it handed to us.
Yep.
And we know with Wisconsin, they're one of the in the top tier in the Big Ten Conference. So it's like most likely probably not going to win that one either. So I would, as a coach, look at the depth of my team, look at the maturity of my team, and say, okay, I've got a resilient bunch of guys. We know we're probably going to go 0-3, maybe 1-2 in those 3 duels. But I think, will this serve me best throughout the remainder of the year? We get battle tested early. We get thrown in the fire. We see what the best of the best looks like, and we know where we have to go from here. Because I don't think you'd be like, hey, yeah, let's just get the crap kicked out of us. That doesn't really serve a purpose. There's got to be a reason why you put those teams on your dual meet schedule, right?
I mean, the other thing, I don't know about the Penn State one, but obviously, when you get three teams and someone as big as Iowa coming to your place at Kent State like that, that's kind of a cool thing. It was a cool event. I know I watched it on Flow. So I think that probably definitely had something to do with it. And then as I look at the rest of their schedule, man, I did pull it up on my computer. They've got a couple really tough duels at the South Beach duels. They're going to that, which please cancel that event, because I want all those teams to either go to Midlands or Scuffle. I'm selfish. I would like to see everyone compete in kind of a smaller range. They go to the Virginia duels, and then they have a bunch of MAC conference duels after that. So the schedule does lighten up quite a bit.
And the other thought process in that is, even though you most likely you're going to lose the duel, there are RPI considerations to take away. Like, okay, we know we're gonna lose the duel, but I've got the opportunity for 2 or 3 of my best guys to earn a good quality win, which is going to help them earn an automatic qualifying spot later on down the road.
Absolutely.
So you may be willing to sacrifice the overall success of the team as long as you get some individual outcomes that could help your guys later on down the road.
And that's not necessarily the overall success of the team, right? Because to your point, if it helps them, say Tim Rooney does beat Austin DeSanto, and it helps them qualify 2 or 3 more guys for the NCAAs, that's team success right there. Yeah, to your point, I think that's probably is something that they think about quite a bit, is how are we going to put our schedule so our guys get some really good matchups, because you do see it when guys kind of they don't go outside their little box of teams. It does make them harder to get ranked, especially if you're Kent State or if you're, say, a Tennessee Chattanooga or something like that. Like, you have to go wrestle some of those better teams in order to try to get ranked.
Yeah, because if you can get some good quality wins in November, and then I know that Kent State is always at the Las Vegas Invitational, the Cliff Keen Invitational.
They are not this year.
They're not there.
They're
okay.
Not this year, no.
But what I was thinking is, if you can get a couple good quality wins in November, and then you go out to Las Vegas and place the Cliff Keen, historically, you kind of maintain your ranking throughout the remainder of the year. You've kind of established where you are. You may bump up 1 or 2 slots or slide down 1 or 2 slots, but historically, if you place at Las Vegas, you get in the top 20, and you kind of you maintain your top 20 status, which in turn most likely gives you an automatic qualifying spot for the national tournament. So
and we talked about that. I think I was talking about that with Christian Piles, maybe, or somebody. It's like, a lot of these coaches. So just so everyone knows, how the coaches rank is done is, Matt, how many coaches are assigned to each weight class? Is it 4?
I believe it's 4 to 6, or it could be 6.
Okay, so the coaches are assigned 1 or 2 weight classes, and they have to rank those. But listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. Every coach's job isn't to be a ranker. They're not going through every single match, right? They're going to flow. They're seeing, oh, this guy's 12. Oh, shoot, he lost to number 16 this week. Okay, I'll move him down to 15. I'll move 16 to 14, right? And they're kind of, so to your point, once you get in the rankings, whether it be at Vegas or wherever else, that goes a long way towards staying in the rankings, which goes a long way towards getting an all automatic qualifying spot and making the NCAA tournament. And for, a program like Kent State or a smaller program, if you could rack up a handful of NCAA qualifiers, that looks really good to your athletic department.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, each coach kind of knows how their athletic department is evaluating them. And in the sport of wrestling, as much as we've tried to emphasize, and I know the NWCAA has tried to insert themselves as far as building up quality dual meets, most coaches say, hey, how we do the last weekend of March is going to determine how I'm evaluated by my athletic department. So if you may not have a great dual meet record, but if you can get two guys on the podium and have a top 25, top 20 finish, hey, that's success. And that's bringing valuable recognition to the athletic department. And it by and large, probably that's how your worth is determined in that tournament in March, not that you have a great dual meet record, but don't send anybody to the NCAA tournament, right?
Yeah, no, I agree totally. So yeah, I think good play by Kent State, even though they didn't get a win there. Some good matches. Hopefully Kyle Connell heals up. And
then the other thing, just to finish up on Kent State,
yeah.
I think that's always a great opportunity when you can put yourself in the most hostile of environments in the country. And I would put Rec Hall in the discussion.
It's gotta be number one now, Matt. It's gotta be. I mean, like, you're not just gonna get beat if you go there. You're gonna get freaking slaughtered. If you're not up to par, you're getting slaughtered. Period. You're gonna give up bonus points in almost every match that you don't have a guy who's nationally ranked in.
Yes. So from a coaching standpoint, like, hey, how can I closely simulate the environment that you're going to experience at the NCAA tournament? Well, put yourself in a hostile environment. I would argue, as you said, it was probably even more hostile in Rec Hall than at the NCAA tournament. But from
I went to that duel last year, that Ohio State Penn State duel, because I didn't want to miss the greatest duel of all time. That was brutal. I mean, okay, first of all, they didn't give Ohio State any freaking tickets. I think it was like 7,000 dark blue and 47 red shirts, It was like Ohio State didn't get any tickets. They got effed. And so it was totally hostile the whole entire time.
And they don't just sell out the arena. They pack the track. There's a track that runs around the top of Rec Hall. They sell out the track. So it's like standing room only. Every seat is sold out. It's hostile. It's intimidating. And I tell you what, those Penn State fans, I love them to death. They're passionate. They're knowledgeable.
They know wrestling, man. They know wrestling.
They know wrestling. And I know before the match, Jeff Jordan was talking to me. He's like, Matt, I'm gonna go out to the Penn State match. What can I expect? I'm like, hey, you're gonna have a great experience outside of Rec Hall. You're gonna be in State College downtown, getting something to eat. People are gonna be like, hey, Coach Jordan, great to see you. Welcome to State College. It's gonna be a great match tonight. And then as soon as you step in to Rec Hall, it's like the Coliseum in Rome. I mean, it's ruthless, and the gloves are off, and they are on top of you. And like they said, and like you said, they know wrestling too.
They know wrestling, man.
They know what good wrestling is, and they have become accustomed to seeing great wrestling, great performances. So it is, I would agree, absolutely probably the number one wrestling environment in college wrestling.
That was,
today.
Obviously I've been a part of a lot of wrestling, and I want to say that might have been my favorite duel I've ever been to. And I was just a spectator. I wasn't coaching. I didn't have any athletes I've coached in there. I wasn't wrestling. And man, that Ohio State Penn State, that was just a special environment. It was an awesome duel because Ohio State came out hot, and you were thinking, like, at the break, you were thinking, like, damn, how is Penn State? Penn State's not going to win. They have no chance. They're not going to win, And then somehow, some way, they came back, and it came down to Snyder, and Snyder had to get, I want to say, had to get a tech fall, you know? And so now the pressure's on one of the greatest Americans of all time to go with the tech fall. And listen, Kyle Snyder has ice running through his veins, Matt. Rec Hall got to Kyle Snyder. He tried a lat drop. Kyle Snyder tried a lat drop. Rec Hall got to him. It was like, what? It was like, Matt, it was the Twilight Zone. It was like, what is happening right now? This is insanity. It was crazy.
And now, when we talk about home field advantage, that's what you're talking about, right? I know there's been a lot of people from a fan perspective, because you can't get tickets to Rec Hall.
No, you can't get tickets. And that's why I thought that a lot of Ohio State fans were pissed that they didn't move that match to the Bryce Jordan Center, which seats 16,000 or 17,000. Because Ohio State fans, so for those of you guys who aren't geographically inclined, Ohio and Pennsylvania, they're right next to each other. They're neighbors. And a lot of Ohio people wanted to go to that match, and they couldn't get tickets. None of the Penn State fans are selling their tickets. And so I even think, I want to say on eBay or one of those second sites, I want to say it was like $200 for a ticket. It was something that was totally mind-blowing for the sport of wrestling. And Ohio State fans were pissed that they didn't move to Bryce Jordan, because that would have enabled Ohio State to bring a fan base also, which initially in the lead up to that, I thought, yeah, this is crap. They should put it in Bryce Jordan. If you could sell 16,000 tickets, you sell 16,000 tickets. But then when I went to Rec Hall, I'm like, I get it. I see exactly why they hosted it here.
Yeah, because that was arguably one of the top duels of all time, right? And it delivered on all levels. But
it did. It was awesome.
From a coaching perspective, you're like, hey, where can I get an advantage? And if you're familiar with the Bryce Jordan Center, they would have sold Bryce Jordan out as well. But Bryce Jordan is not a basketball arena where the seats are right on top of the basketball court. It was built and it's set up to be a concert arena or a multi-purpose arena first and foremost. So the proximity of your fans to the mat in Bryce Jordan, there's a huge separation. So even when you sell that arena out, it's an entirely different viewing and event experience as opposed to Rec Hall, where you step 1 foot off the mat and you're getting shoved back on the mat by some hostile, crazy Penn State fans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you know what I'm really looking forward to. I don't think Penn State Iowa is that competitive this year, but Penn State Iowa next year, right? So Penn State will graduate nickel, they'll graduate Neville Zerkasar, who's ever at heavyweight, and then Shakur Rashid. So Penn State graduates quite a bit. Obviously they're going to reload, and Iowa is going to be really, really good, and they're going to have, I want to say, either 5 or 6 Pennsylvania guys in their lineup. So when Iowa goes in 2 years, when they go to the Bryce Jordan Center or Rec Hall, that is going to be freaking outstanding. I'm probably going for sure.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be the first time where Iowa's going to have a fan base, depending on if they can get tickets, right?
They're not going to get, if it's in Rec Hall, they're going to be stuck outside in the freaking cold looking through the windows or something.
But with Iowa fielding half their lineup being guys from PA, all of a sudden there could be the first opportunity where there's a big Iowa contingent that is, cheering at a home event for Penn State.
Yeah, that's going to be wild. I mean, right now Iowa has more Pennsylvania starters on their team than Penn State does, and that's a pretty crazy thing to think about. And as good as Pennsylvania is, and historically they've been the best high school wrestling state in the nation, the fact that Cale isn't keeping some of those guys at home, and I get it. Obviously, when Spencer Lee got away, he had Nick Suriano, so he didn't. He thought, okay, I got that spot covered. And a few of those other guys, Kemmerer, you had Nolf, right? So how are you going to fit him in the lineup? So I get why you missed out on some of these guys, but I think it still hurts, especially when they all. Not all, but when a lot of them go to one of the other power programs.
Right. And eventually you knew that was going to happen, right? I mean, Cale's been there for about a decade now. He might be in his 10th year. So you knew there was going to come a time where, like, how many kids are actually going to stay at home and go to Penn State, where they like, okay, I think I can be the man and I want to go to Penn State, but to get to be able to put on that singlet, I might have to go through 2 or 3 All-Americans just to make the lineup.
I don't know. Get this right, Matt. National champions.
National champions. I mean,
yes, think about. Let's talk about Michael Kemmerer. That's a great example. You know, he's a beast. Yeah. But he had Rutherford national champ, Nolf national champ, Chenzo national champ, Mark Hall national champ. Where was he going to get in the lineup?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So it's like, yeah, I would love to go to Penn State. And in Kemmerer's case, and Spencer Lee with their club coach Jody Strittmatter at Young Guns and his ties with Iowa. He wrestled at Iowa. He was a national finalist for Iowa. Obviously, there is more of a connection between Jody and the Young Guns and Iowa as opposed to driving guys, although a number of his guys have gone to Penn State.
I think there's a close connection to Penn State, obviously, and I think Cale's made that a close connection, which if he didn't, he was an idiot, and Cale's not an idiot, so he would never do that. But, you know, Jason Nolf is a young gun. Vincenzo's a young gun. And so, and like I said, you know, I think there was some issues. You know, they thought, hey, we got Soriano here. You know, Spencer's a career 25. How are we going to fit him in? That type of thing, you know? You know, I would say I know Jody pretty well. I've got to know them from doing camps and stuff, and he's an awesome dude. You know, obviously he's got the Hawkeye roots, and so I don't think he's sad when guys go to Iowa, but I also think a certain part of him likes it when, you know, those guys stick around Pennsylvania and he gets to see them on a way more regular basis.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he's not opposed. Obviously, he's not opposed to guys going to Penn State. But yeah, like when you have that choice, like, okay, do I have to beat out a national champ and not just beat him out for 1 year, beat him out for 2 or 3 years, or do I go to another top 5 program that's proven they can develop and produce consistent national champs, win national titles, earn team trophies? Why wouldn't you make that logical leap?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Hey, Matt, we kind of got on a gigantic tangent about Penn State and Rec Hall, which that was a lot of fun. You know, you brought good back that memories. That duel last year was fantastic. Hey, I just wanted to throw a few other results at you and see what you thought. None of these, again, are earth shaking, but I think they kind of all maybe reaffirm stuff we knew. Jane Ironman, Penn, Sedarian Perry, All-American from Eastern Michigan, transferred to ODU, was competitive until the third period. And then Nick Reenan got a win over Ryan Price. And I thought that was good to see that. You know, Reenan obviously had all that success in freestyle last year, made it all the way to Final X against David Taylor, but had really kind of struggled in his first year of the folk style competition. So he beats Ryan Price, who, you know, Ryan Price is really good. He's not a
really good
champ, but he's in there. Ryan Price is in there with everybody. He doesn't get his butt kicked by anybody. So
I mean, he's a lock to be an All-American. So I was really impressed, and he's a really good folk style wrestler as well. And so that I was impressed with Reenan because I've been like you, like obviously on the freestyle side of things, Reenan is very highly and technically proficient in freestyle, but he has struggled in some areas in folk style. So to see him get a result, even though it's early in the season, I thought that was a really impressive result by Reenan.
Absolutely.
Continuing in the vein of the Wolfpack, Trent Hidley, Hayden Hidley's younger brother, I believe right now he is redshirting, but he went up to the Binghamton Open and had won the tournament, beat Womack from Cornell, who is a All-American.
Yeah, that was a good bracket.
Also beat Mason Manville in the semis to make the finals, and actually wrestled a Binghamton guy, Vincent Dupre, in the finals, and had a good win there as well. So I think an extremely impressive performance from Trent Hidley. Bodes well for their future.
When we talk about issues with lineups, they also have the two Bullard brothers who've had, you know, they haven't been All-Americans yet, but both of them had a decent amount of success at 74. So they have all three of those guys at 174 right now for the Wolfpack. Really deep.
Yes. So again, good problems for Pat Popolizio to have, and we'll see how those develop. What did you think about? So I saw that Gable Stevenson beat Tanner Hall.
I'm annoyed that there's no video. That's what I'm annoyed about.
Yeah,
I want to see. I couldn't find that. I even put it on Twitter. Matt, you should have seen some of the profane responses I got when I asked, "Does anyone have video of Gable versus Hall?" It's like freaking idiots on Twitter. Is like, good God, I got some dumb responses. So from what people were saying about the match, it was competitive. Gable was more aggressive, and then got the takedown pretty much right away in OT. But I think that's an interesting result just because Gable kind of beat him up in freestyle last spring. And we do talk about freestyle and folk style. They're definitely different. There's big differences there. And so, Tanner Hall, someone who's been a solid college wrestler, but, not like challenging for a national title or anything like that. Maybe that doesn't look the best for Gable Stevenson. But the other thing, he's a freshman. He's a true freshman at that. He's going to take a few bumps in the road. There's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen.
But it's not a bump. He won the match.
It's kind of a bump because I think everyone thought, hey, Gable's going to come in and kick everyone's butt. I think that's what they thought. That's not a realistic expectation. And I think Gable Stevenson is highly, highly talented. He's going to have a great career. But Tanner Hall, number one. And Tanner Hall's like 34 years old.
He's 34.
I took Tanner Hall on a recruiting trip at Arizona State, man. I haven't been there in like 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, he's a podium guy. It's not like he beat a slouch. I mean, the guy's going to be on the podium.
Yeah.
He's not going to contend to win it. I don't think I think we could agree on that. But fair. This is a seasoned guy. He's an All-American. He's going to be on the podium again. And Tanner Hall's MO in folk style, he takes everybody to overtime.
Yep.
He never scores points. So the opportunity, and I'm trying to recall the freestyle match, but I believe Stevenson got on top of Hall and turned him several times, didn't he?
I don't remember. I was at the tournament. I remember the match happening, and I cannot remember in my head what happened. I just remember it wasn't competitive.
But as good as Stevenson's parterre ability is in freestyle, I don't think he has a lot of turning ability in folk style.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard at heavyweight, right? Heavyweight's one of two things. Either you're really great on top and you understand how to use your weight and leverage, or you're terrible on top. There's not a lot of middle ground with heavyweights in folk style wrestling.
No, and given Gable's stature, he's not a big or tall or even he's got a big wide frame. So, I mean, Tanner Hall's he's a 265 plus guy. I mean, it's hard to turn those guys, even if you're good on top. And so not that I'm giving him a pass, but I think there's always an unrealistic expectation.
I think I agree with what you're saying, but I bought into the hype, man. I'm all in on the Gable hype train. So, I think I was like a lot of other people when I was surprised when this one went to OT, and I was wishing I could see some film from it.
Yeah.
So,
but
you know what, man? I didn't think we were going to talk that long about results this weekend. I thought we were going to talk about a little bit about recruiting. Let's push recruiting to our next episode, and obviously it's fitting because this week is NLI week, so people are signing the National Letter of Intent. I think we have a lot of interesting things to talk about. I think we're talking about whose classes are your favorites. I know I have my favorites picked out. And that was a lot of fun getting into Rec Hall and that stuff. So, Matt, I will talk to you next time.
Sounds good. Have a good one, Ben.